So today we'll be talking about how to bias your mind for success. This is a continuation of the conversation we were having in the last video, where I shared my story of how I moved to the UK, and a lot of that, I believe, was driven by the fact that I had made the decision about what my goals were for the coming year. So when the opportunity showed up, I was already ready for it. The decision was already made and I keyed into it quickly. If you watch that video, I go into more details there, but you would see that if I hadn't had that goal in mind, I would have missed the opportunity. So watch the video and then come back and watch this one. So in this video, we'll be talking about my annual ritual for setting goals and how I bias my mind to achieve those goals for the coming year. Before we go ahead, let me remind you that this video is sponsored by yours truly. So if you like this kind of content, just like the video. Typically I talk more on finance, but every now and then I will also talk about life generally and things I've learned as an immigrant in the UK and as an investor in the global markets. Make sure you watch to the end because I have a bonus that I'll share at the very end. Now, my 5-step process for goal setting. I usually start with my why. Right? Because if I know why I'm doing something, and then it's easier for me to stay with it. So when I say why, I'm actually referring to my values. What exactly drives me as an individual? What am I looking for? What brings me joy? What makes me happy? What do I like doing? Who do I like spending time with? When I say who now, the kind of person I like spending time with. What am I passionate about? What's important to me? That last one, what's really important to you, is a very important thing, because sometimes when we set goals, we forget what's important to us and we set goals based off what society or our friends or even family has decided or has told us, has fed us, should be important to us. So that's one. And then the other thing to also keep in mind on this first step is, what are your priorities in the long term? The question I typically ask is, if you picture yourself at the age of 92, or I don't know, 102, whatever age you want to live up to, but picture yourself, right? You're very old and you're about to pass on. What would you regret if you hadn't done it in your 92 or 102 years on earth? What would you look back on that you're so sure that if you don't do that thing, you will regret it in your old age? That should help guide you, right? And in most cases, if you look at the research, most people would say it has something to do with spending time with family or with loved ones. It's very rare for it to be something like, oh, I regret that I didn't rise to the top of my career, or that I didn't make so much money. But then again, I guess it depends on who was being asked these questions. But you need to ask yourself that question. If you were 102 today and you were about to pass on, what would you regret if you looked back at your life and you had missed out on that one thing and you had everything else? Let's say you had everything else except that one thing. What would it be that, oh, if I had everything else, what I didn't have this one thing, I'll definitely regret it. So the second step, after I've clarified my values and my priorities in terms of, okay, if I had everything else but I didn't have this one thing, I would regret it. The second step would actually now be coming up with goals for the coming year. Now, I'm looking at them as life goals, but then what part of those life goals am I achieving in the following year? How do we choose those life goals? Again, it has to do with picturing the future. If I picture a perfect day in 10 years, what would a perfect day in my life look like 10 years from today? That's long enough for you to have built a business, started a new career, started a family. That's long enough for a lot of things to have changed significantly in your life, moved to a totally new country. So if you picture 10 years from now, what would your life look like if everything about it was perfect? Even if you're new in the UK, that's long enough for you to have built a stock portfolio. That's long enough for you to have gotten your citizenship. A lot would have changed in 10 years. So what would be perfect? Now, when you think about it like that, what's the difference between where you are today and that picture of perfection in 10 years. Now, I would break it into categories, right? You could break it into what would my perfect life look like in the area of my health? Do I want to lose weight? Do I want to gain weight? Do I want to fix certain things? What would my perfect life look like in the area of my relationships with my family? Or do I want to be in a relationship and that kind of thing? What would it look like in terms of my finances? Ding ding. Our core topic on this channel. What would it look like in terms of my career? In terms of my spiritual life, my relationship with God? What would it look like in terms of all the different aspects of my life, right? If I list out all those things and say, this is what my perfect life could look like. And then for each of those areas, I now assess what's the difference between where I am today in each of those areas and that perfect picture. And then from there on, I can now say, these are the things I need to do to close that gap. Now, I like to point out something at this stage. Sometimes people find it difficult to differentiate between their goals and their to-dos, right? It's one thing for you to have a list of things that you want to do. I used to make this mistake all the time. I have a list of things I want to do. So I want to get my driver's license, for instance. That is a to-do. It's not a goal because it's a means to an end, right? So that's really the difference between a to-do and a goal. So if I say, oh, next year I want to get my driver's license, yeah, but it's a to-do. It's not a goal. It's something I plan to do next year. But a goal could be, next year I want to travel around the country and be able to rent a car anywhere. Or let's follow the logic or the flow that we had said earlier. What's the picture of perfection that I see in 10 years? Let's say I want to be a fully integrated citizen of the UK in 10 years, right? I want to know everywhere. I want to be very familiar with other places. I want to have moved out of London in terms of my life, right? So between now and then, I want to expose myself to all other parts of the country and travel and go around and meet people and things like that. So maybe next year, as part of my goal for next year, I want to go on a drive outside of London and explore places. But I know I won't be able to do this unless I have a driver's license. If I want to rent a car to drive around, I need a driver's license. So my to-do is I need to get a driver's license so that I can drive around and explore places. And then my goal is I want to actually travel and drive around and explore places outside London next year. But the long-term vision is in 10 years' time, I am a fully integrated citizen of the UK and I know everywhere around the country. Or let's say I want to have moved out of London in 10 years' time and settled in a different part of the country. But between now and then, I need to explore those other places so that I have a first-hand understanding of what it looks like instead of just reading about it on Rightmove. That's a bit of a ramble, but I'm trying to let you see how to differentiate between your long-term goal, your short-term objective, and then a to-do. Something you need to do in order to meet the short-term objective on your way to meeting your long-term goal. So you can apply that same thinking to different aspects of your life. It could be your health. In 10 years, you see yourself as being just as healthy as you are today. But again, for you to be able to do that, you need to make sure you're eating well, you've lost weight, you're able to maintain your cholesterol levels and so on and so forth. For you to do that, you need to make sure you've moved into a steady, healthy diet, right? So your to-do could be, oh, you get a diet coach, or you join a gym, or you start a keto diet, or something like that. That could be your to-do. That would help you to meet your short-term objective on your way to meeting your long-term goal. So you could play with that in the comments if you don't mind. Just give me your long-term goal, your short-term objective that you want to meet next year on your way to meeting the long-term goal, and then what action are you going to take. And that actually takes me to the next point, which is my third step in this 5-step process, which is you need to streamline. Because if we look at different aspects of your life, you will probably end up with at least 10 different things that you want to achieve. But you can't do everything in 1 year. If you look at the number of months in a year, you have 12 months in a year. Even if you're achieving one goal every month, which is unlikely, unless you're a super type A character. For someone like me that just likes to enjoy life, I don't see myself just sweeping out a goal a month. So usually I condense mine to one big goal, one big objective each quarter. So that's 4. All right. So if I'm able to take off one big objective on my way to meeting my long-term goals, then I know I did well that year. I used to have long lists before. I've tried this for years. I used to have long lists. I'll have a long list of about 10 different things that I want to do, but then I kept carrying over that list. So I still have the list. It's just that I look at that long list and I say, okay, of all these things, which one do I really want to do next year? That's how I arrived here. For instance, I looked at my long list and I was like, look, the most important thing for me right now is to relocate. And then we'll talk about, side hustle later, and then career, and so on and so forth. So those are some of my own personal big goals. Of course, I moved now, so that one is out of it. But things like my investment goals, my career goals, relationship goals, so all those things, I've broken them down and then I prioritize those ones. And then, okay, these are the 4 key things I need to do next year. And they're all building blocks of me meeting my long-term goals so that by the time I am 92, I will not regret my life. And then once you have those 4 things, you simplify to those 4 things or those few things. It doesn't have to be 4. You could decide you can do 6, maybe one goal every 2 months. Or if you are a super devoted type A person, you could do one big goal every month, right? Which is fine. But I wouldn't do more than 10 goals a year. Personally, I would recommend you keep it under 10, unless the goals are not big enough. If they are audacious enough, then it's better for you to keep it under 10. And then what you now do, the 4th step for me is now decide what are the daily habits that I can do that would move me towards my goals. So going back to what I said earlier about to-dos, right? What are the things that I can put on my daily to-do list that will move me towards my goal? So for instance, let's say in 10 years, you see yourself being a mother of 2 lovely kids. Today you are single. So that means next year you want to get into a relationship, right? Cool. What is it that you can do on a daily basis that will help you get into a relationship? What are some things that you would need to do next year? For instance, you definitely need to go out and meet people. So that could be your to-do. It's just like me saying I want to get a driver's license. But then if going out to meet people is not something you would do every day, so what could you do every day? Could it be, okay, maybe you get on a dating app and make sure once a day you look for 1 or 2 people that you can swipe right on. I know it's difficult for women because you're usually swiping left, men are usually swiping right. Or pick something that you can do every day. Maybe that's not a great example, but if we use something like, okay, you want to be in good shape, you want to be healthy in 10 years, maybe next year your goal is to start to build the habits, right? So you can decide, okay, what one daily habit will you start doing from January 1st or December preferably that will help you to build those healthy habits next year. This is the most important part of your goal setting process. Distilling your long-term goal into an objective that you want to meet next year and distilling that into things that you need to do on a daily basis. That by doing those things daily, it's more likely than not that you would meet your goal for the year. It could be something as simple as you would dedicate an hour every evening to do something about that goal, even if you don't know exactly what you want to do about it. But it could be, every evening I will dedicate an hour and do something about it. Or every morning, an hour every morning, I will review all these 4 goals and evaluate myself on how I'm tracking, what I need to do on each of them. So basically you have like an all hands meeting with yourself every morning to review your goals for the year and decide what do I need to do today to meet each of these goals. Right, so it could be something that simple. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate or something fixed that you decide from day one. it helps if it's something you decide from day one, because that also informs what other people would call resolutions, right? Because you now know, okay, this is something I will be doing every day going forward, but this is why I'm doing it, because I want to meet this objective in order to be able to meet this long-term goal. Now, the last step is something that I do sometimes, I don't always do, and that's basically working with a vision board. So that has more to do with appealing to a different part of your mind, of your brain, right? Because everything we've been saying now is more logical discussion and all that, but you also need to bring some joy into it, right? You need to excite yourself about these goals. So basically that's what, for me, that's what a vision board does. I get pictures of the things that I want, or pictures that remind me of what I want, right? And I put it in the first time I did this, I actually cut them out of a magazine and put it, that's the traditional way, cut it out of a magazine and stick it on an old calendar and hang it in your room. Something else I used to do years back was, okay, I'm showing my age now, but I would write a check. This I learned from Samadeyemi. I would write a check for an amount that I have never seen in my bank account. Sometimes I would write that check to myself. There was a time I decided, I would write that check to my mom. So I wrote it. It was a real check, a physical check. I tore it out of my checkbook, wrote it, addressed it to my mom, signed it, and put a figure there that was more than I had ever seen in my bank account at the time. It was one of these Daystar programs where someone said they would write that check and stick it to their roof. So every time they wake up and look up, they see that check, and it reminds them of the goal, and it also excites them. All right. This was over 15 years ago, and nobody writes checks anymore these days. But my point is, it doesn't have to be like cut out picture and puts it on a calendar. It could be a check. Some people use Pinterest for this, right? They just paint stuff that make them happy. It's the tail end of this goal setting process, right? The idea is you've done everything else. This is just to trigger that subconscious part of your mind that likes sugar, basically. It's like mental candy, just to make you happy. Now, a word of caution here. I used to do this for all my goals, but I noticed personally some goals take longer than others. And if you keep reminding yourself of something, there's something that I read in the Bible, it says, hope deferred makes the heart sick. So if it's something that okay, this is a goal I want, but it's taking a bit longer than I expected, it may help to not put it on your vision board, because you want it, you really want it. Reminding yourself of it, like putting it on your vision board, sometimes can now start to have a detrimental effect where you now feel it reminds you that you don't have it, instead of reminding you that you want it, because you already know you want it. So we need to be careful with this one. That's why I said this is like the last one, it's the tail end, and it's optional. I typically use pictures. Sometimes I put it on my phone, right? Sometimes I just use a picture on my phone wallpaper, and people look at, this is an interesting picture. They don't know it means something to me. Like it means something particular to me. Or sometimes I use my laptop wallpaper, or it could be just a PowerPoint document that I just put pictures in. It could be anything. There was a time it used to be a folder where I just put videos, video clips, pictures and stuff, just to remind me of things that I wanted. And then every morning I would open that folder, play those. It was a playlist of videos and pictures that I would just play every morning, just to refresh my mind of, this is what I'm going for, and this is what I believe I'm getting. If you're a Christian, it's even a bonus. You can pray with it and just bias your mind and use Bible passages as well. Honestly, for Christians, I could do a separate video on that one, because there are lots of examples of people using vision boarding, or the principle of vision boarding, to create their reality around them. If you read the story of Laban and Jacob, you will see Jacob use that principle quite a few times. So that's it. I have a LinkedIn article that details all this quite clearly, but I also have a goal setting template that I created. It's a simple Word document with all these steps detailed in there. I'll link it in the description of this video. In that document, there's also a bunch of questions that you can ask yourself that will help you to understand your values, your priorities. It will help you with the first part of this process. It helps clarify your values and your priorities before you move on into the goal setting bit of things. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please like this video, share it with someone else, and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll keep in touch. Take care.